A man in Washington state has died after contracting the coronavirus, the first death from the new disease in the U.S., health officials said Saturday. Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency in Washington hours later, saying that the outbreak could likely be a worldwide pandemic. The patient, in his 50s, was being treated at Evergreen Health Medical Center in Kirkland, Washington, with serious issues, according to hospital spokesperson Julia Irwin. He was among 3 new cases announced Saturday by state officials. The 2 other cases have ties to a long-term care facility. Evergreen Health said the hospital was working closely with health authorities in the wake of the patient's death. Like any iceberg, we're seeing the most critically ill, said Dr. Frank Rido, medical director of infection control at Evergreen. In all likelihood, there is an ongoing, low-level transmission. Do not travel. Americans urged to avoid Italy, South Korea amid coronavirus outbreak. Here's what we know about the first coronavirus death in the U.S. Who was the King County patient who died? The patient was a man in his 50s who had significant, chronic, underlying health conditions, said Jeff Dutchin, health officer for Seattle and King counties, during a CDC press briefing. President Donald Trump, speaking to reporters in Washington, D.C., initially identified the patient as a woman, but CDC Director Robert Redfield later tweeted that the agency had mistakenly identified the patient as female when briefing the president and vice president. The patient had no travel history to affected areas, according to Redfield and Washington state health officials. It is a sad day in our state as we learn that Washingtonian has died from COVID-19. Our hearts go out to his family and friends. We will continue to work toward a day where no one dies from this virus, Inslee said in a Saturday statement. In partnership with the Washington State Department of Health, the Washington State Department of Emergency Management and local and community health partners, we are strengthening our preparedness and response efforts. I am committed to keeping Washingtonians healthy, safe, and informed, he said. Coronavirus live updates. First U.S. death reported in Washington state, officials say. Was the death tied to a long-term care facility? Washington state officials said Saturday they have seen at least 2 new coronavirus cases tied to a long-term care facility, the Life Care Center of Kirkland. The patient who died, however, was not tied to the care facility. At this point, we don't have links, Dutchin said. Dutchin said he was very concerned about spread in the facility, which has about 108 residents and 180 staff. About 27 residents were showing symptoms, as well as 25 staff, Dutchin said. One worker at the facility, a person in their 40s with no known travel history to affected areas, tested positive for the virus and was in satisfactory condition, officials said. A resident at the facility in their 70s also tested positive and was in serious condition. The Washington State Department of Health has strategies in place to help senior centers to protect vulnerable populations, according to the department. Life Care Centers of America did not immediately return a request for comment. How did the Washington patient contract coronavirus? It was not immediately clear how the patient who died contracted COVID-19. We do feel that the risk to the general public is increasing, State Health Officer Kathy Laffey said in the King County press conference. It's more important than ever for people to practice good health habits. Health officials reiterated Saturday that the elderly and people with pre-existing conditions are more susceptible to infection. Laffey said the state may consider canceling large public events, if necessary, but that people should take standard precautions, such as washing hands and staying home if sick. Have other Americans died? Yes. An American man in his 60s died in Wuhan, China, earlier this month. How many coronavirus cases are in the U.S.? At least 59 people in the U.S. have been infected with the virus, according to the CDC. Of those cases, 12 are travel-related and 3 are person-to-person spread. Most of the cases are among Americans repatriated to the U.S., including 3 cases that originated in Wuhan, China, and 44 aboard the Diamond Princess cruise ship. How many people have died worldwide? Nearly 86,000 people have been infected with the virus worldwide, and nearly 3,000 have died, according to data collected by Johns Hopkins University. What is the Trump administration saying about coronavirus? Trump faced criticism from reporters Saturday for his previous comments on the outbreak. At a political rally in South Carolina on Friday, Trump told supporters that Democrats are using the virulent coronavirus as a hoax to damage him and his administration. Trump clarified his comments Saturday, saying that, by hoax, he was referring to Democrats' claims about the virus, not the virus itself. Trump said the coronavirus was a tough issue that has become very, very important to everybody. Vice President Mike Pence spoke at the news conference. The threat to Americans, of coronavirus, remains low, despite today's tragic news from Washington state. Pence said the president's task force on coronavirus met Saturday morning and decided to impose additional travel restrictions. The U.S. raised the travel warning to level 4, its most severe warning regarding travel to affected areas of Italy and South Korea, and expanded restrictions on travel to Iran.